Hey, this is Isaiah, and welcome back to Rooney Tunes, your Sally Rooney fan cast. Just kidding. We're back again with another radio yoga, although I would recommend checking out Sally Rooney's books. They're really good. Today's class will help you stretch and unwind and slow down, maybe right before bed, maybe just when you need some downtime. There won't be any required props. If your lower back is a little stiff or your hips are a little tight, I'd recommend having a blanket or a towel or something nearby so that you can fold it up and sit on it later in the class. We'll begin lying down on the mat. So you move and adjust and wiggle and fidget and do all the things that you need to do to settle into your space. And then you ground down, you take a sigh out, maybe soften or close your eyes, and land on your mat. Take your arms overhead, point your toes down to the bottom of your mat so you're getting as long and as tall as you can. And on an inhale, arch your back, lift your ribs, back bend a little. Exhale, pull the ribs together, pull the spine down into the ground. Twice more. Inhale to arch and expand. And exhale to contract. Inhale to expand. And exhale, pull yourself together. Now take your arms down by your sides, easy again. Rest one hand on your abdomen below your ribs, one hand on your chest. And you drop into a deeper, fuller breath. Today's class, I'll keep the cues fairly straightforward. So I will instruct how to get into the posture. I will bring your attention to notice something in a posture, and then bring you back to your breath. And your breath is warm and long and filling. So on an inhale, your belly expands and the breath rises up into your chest and your chest expands. And on an exhale, it empties out of the chest and then out your belly all the way down to the base of your torso. Inhale. It's kind of like you're pouring hot water into a cup for tea. From bottom to top, it fills up, it heats you up. And on an exhale, it's like you are drinking the tea. It goes down and down and down until the tea has served its purpose, the breath has served its purpose, and it's empty. Inhale, you fill up like water into a cup. And exhale, you release, like water pouring out. You want to be careful while you're pouring in so you don't splash or cause any burns. You want to be careful when drinking so that you don't burn yourself. So you take your time with these breaths. These soft breaths are what we'll come back to throughout the class. Keep breathing like this and bend your knees so that you can take your hands on top of your knees. Really simple and small. You'll just circle your hips a little on the floor. So by taking your knees together in circles, you can gently massage your lower back and the top of your pelvis against the ground. You might use your long inhale for when the knees are farthest away from your chest, and the exhale for when they're closer in. and switch direction. And center yourself. Bring your feet flat on the floor. Your hands will come off your knees. Set up your feet close to your hips, about a hip's width distance apart, like you would for a bridge. It's very easy for the outer hip muscles to overpower the inner ones. We do a lot of work in Warrior 2, in lunges, not a ton of work in things like eagle wrap. So, to balance out the leg, to help the shape hold itself together, you're going to internally rotate the feet. The heels will turn out a little wider, the big toes a little closer together. And this also sets up your sacrum so that plate can open, your lower back gets a little bit more space. Press your big toes down. Inhale, peel just your tailbone off the floor. And hold it there for the exhale. And then inhale, you pick up also your lower back. And hold for the exhale. And then inhale, piece by piece, you peel up your mid-back all the way, sort of as high as you can peel your spine off the floor. Your skull will be down on the floor the whole time. You take the exhale. And then you take an inhale right here. Exhale, bring your upper and mid-back down onto the mat. Pause for the inhale. And lower your lower back down with the exhale. Pause for the inhale. And lower your tailbone back down. Take a full breath in and out right here. We'll do this 3-part lift 2 more times. Inhale, pick up the tailbone. And exhale. Inhale, pick up your lower back. And hold for the exhale. Inhale, pick up your mid and upper back. Hold for the exhale and the inhale. And then exhale to lower the upper mid back down. Pause for the inhale. Exhale to lower the lower back down and pause. Exhale to lower the tailbone down. Take a full breath in and out. Last round. It's always an inhale to lift. So inhale the tailbone. And exhale. Inhale the lower back. And exhale. Inhale the mid to upper back. And exhale. Pause for the inhale. Now it's exhales to lower down. So exhale, you lower the upper mid back. Pause for the inhale. You lower the lower back. And pause. And you wait for the exhale to lower your tailbone down. Perfect. Pick your feet just up off the floor and then let both knees go over toward the right. You'll reach your right arm toward the back of the room so that you can roll onto your right side and use your right arm like a pillow. Your right arm is any shape that is most supportive for your head. And then your left arm goes straight up toward the sky. Fingers pointing up into space. And you imagine a point projecting out from your middle finger. And with that point, you start to draw a little spiral on the ceiling or the sky, going around. So the elbow is straight and the wrist isn't really moving. It's the shoulder that's moving to take the arm around in these little circles. And each circle gets a little larger. So you can tell where this is going. In a few breaths, you will be at your sort of maximum wingspan as you go around. You do this with a nice, easy intensity, no need to wrench the shoulder out of its socket, and you accompany it with your full breath. If you're pairing the movements with the breath, it's an inhale when the arm sweeps behind you, when your chest is open, and an exhale when it comes in front of you and your back is rounding. The next time you finish a circle and a breath, you'll switch directions and start winding that spiral back in so each circle gets smaller, and eventually your arm will reach straight up toward the stars again. Take your left hand to your left hip for a moment, and then keep your legs where they are. Just lean your shoulders back, lean your head back a little bit so that you can release your right arm from above you, and you'll take your right hand on top of your left knee. So the knees are stacked, the hand is stacked over the knees, and then you reach your left arm back up toward the sky. And then you start to lean your left shoulder down toward the floor. So we start with the hips and the knees stacked, and then you're leaning your chest back to go into a twist. You can take your left arm out wide to the side of the room. I really like to sweep my arm overhead to the back of the room, like I'm doing a backstroke. And then if you turn your head, your arm serves as a pillow. If your shoulder is off the floor or there's any sort of twinging in your lower back, then I would let the knees lift off the floor so you have both shoulders down rather than both knees down. Wherever you are, you have your right hand on top of your knee, and for a couple breaths, it's just a gentle pressure of the hand and the knee pressing into each other. Just enough for the muscles in your leg and your torso to go, "Oh, hello, we're here." That's it. And then if you were pressing, you're going to ease off that pressure. So now it's a more passive stretch. You can soften or close your eyes, and you start just by noticing how the body feels, where the sensations are coming from, what sort of lines or shapes you feel here. I usually feel a line going from my left armpit toward my left hip, and I think about that line getting longer, so the hip moving just a little to the top of the mat, and I'm falling back toward the armpit. And then you bring your attention to your breath, and you drop into that full, slow breath. If there's any area that has tension, you imagine a pair of lungs planted in that part of your body. And on an inhale, that part of the body expands. It uses up that oxygen. It lightens. And on an exhale, it softens. Take one more breath here. And then there's no rush. You'll make your way back to lie on your spine, roughly in the middle of your mat. Bend your knees. Your feet will just hover off the floor, and then both knees go over to the left. And you reach your left arm toward the back of the room so you can rest your head on your left bicep. Right arm points straight up toward the stars. You imagine a laser pointer shooting out from your middle finger and actually all your fingers. And you want those points to start drawing a spiral. The wrist isn't really moving. The elbow stays straight. You're just moving the shoulder, finding out your range. Take the next, let's say, 4 to 5 breaths. It's a while. To circle in this direction before switching direction and winding it back in. We meet up with your right arm up toward the sky. For a moment, the right hand comes to the right hip. You lean your shoulders and your torso a little back so that you can release the pin you have on top of your left shoulder. You take your left hand down on top of your top knee. And then your right arm reaches back up toward the sky. You take an inhale to expand, get taller. Exhale, you turn your right shoulder and your right rib cage down toward the floor. Your right arm can sweep out to the side or overhead as in a backstroke. Your knees can stay down or you can allow them to lift up, but I would keep the contact between the hand and the knee. You negotiate your twist on the second side. You see how the two sides compare, or you feel it even better. And for, we'll say 2 breaths, the hand and the knee inform each other, so they develop a relationship by pressing. It doesn't need to be a lot. We're not looking to burn out the muscles. Just connect 2 parts of the body in your mind's eye. It'll give you a little bit more control over sort of which way your hips are tilted. And then you can use that information, soften, take away the pressure, when you picture the shapes in your body. So what does a twist look like in your mind's eye? Can you find that length going from your right armpit down into your right hip? And the right hip is trying to continue that curve toward the top of the mat. Your armpit is trying to continue that curve down toward the floor. And then we take it 1 layer deeper, and you find that breath. You can picture lungs where you feel tension. You'll take 3 long breaths here. And after 3, it's going to be different. You're going to come out of the twist by rolling onto your side. So you're on your left side and you roll onto your left side in a fetal position. Then you'll use your hands to press yourself up and come carefully into a cross-legged sitting position. This is the part where if you know that your lower back has been a little sensitive lately, or your hips have been a little tight, maybe more than a little, you'll want to put a blanket or a towel or something underneath your hip bones, your sitting bones. If the hip bones are just a little bit higher than the leg bones, than the knees, you have gravity working with you rather than against you. And the posture will open the hips more easily. You'll have a lot more ease sitting here. So if you need to go grab something, this is the part to pause. And welcome back. I'm glad you made it. So, sitting cross-legged. The tendency for many of us is to sit sort of back a little bit. We sort of end up sitting on our tailbone rather than our perineum. You can do a little adjustment to change that. Take your hands down to the ground right next to your hips, and then a little press to lift your hips just off of the ground. You lean your chest forward, you arch your spine a little bit, cow pose, and then you bring your hips down in that shape. And when you sit up, suddenly you sit up a lot taller. You are no longer falling back behind yourself, at least in theory. You'll set up about an equilateral triangle from your two knees to the base of your pelvis. So you look down at your legs and you give it some thought. How can you arrange this to make that equal triangle? Your shins will be as parallel as they can be, and your feet are going to be lined up with your knees. So if you look down, the sole of your foot is in line with the outer edge of the knee. If the feet are too wide, you're going to generate a lot of heat. It's going to be a lot of work. If your knees are too wide, wider than your feet, it's going to be really loose and open. You're not going to be able to work the joints in the way that's informed. So you fidget and wiggle and you sort of do what you need to do to get as close as you can to that triangle shape. There isn't one fit that is best for everyone, but everyone has shapes that fit them and don't fit them, so this is a way to figure that out. Anyway, your feet are flexed somewhat. If someone put a block on the ground next to your foot should be able to stand on that block. The sole of the foot through the ball of the foot makes a smooth surface. I'm spending a lot of time here explaining how to set up this sitting shape because we're going to do a few things from here. And it's a really useful architecture to have for building postures on top of it. Okay. Take your hands on top of your knees. Now we're going to undulate the spine. It's kind of like a cat and a cow. On an inhale, the tailbone tilts back behind you. The belly starts to push forward as you fill up the belly with air. And then the chest reaches forward as the chest fills up. You roll the shoulders back, and you might even lift the chin just a little. It doesn't need to be a lot. We don't want to crane the neck. Exhale. You bow your head. You round your upper back. You start to look toward your navel. That compresses the chest. The air leaves the chest. And then you try to pull your navel in a little bit to compress the belly. And then eventually the tailbone is trying to tuck under. The tailbone is trying to pull toward your shins. It's like a cat pose. Inhale. The tailbone tilts. You roll into this back bend. And exhale. You bow the head and round into this fold. The hands stay on the knees, at least to begin with, and you follow your breath. You notice that rising level of breath inside of you, warming you, and then draining out of you. You have used up the oxygen, and it goes all the way down. So, follow your breath. You are very welcome to close your eyes and go inward. You might have built up a little bit of heat. Things might be opening. If you want to go deeper, when you inhale and lift your chest, you can try putting your hands down on the ground, flat in front of your legs. And then the hands stay planted exactly where they are, about a shoulder width distance apart. And you follow your breath doing the exact same thing, rounding back on the exhale and inhaling forward. In time, you might warm up, and even this will feel full of ease. If you want to move even farther, you'll walk your hands farther forward when you're arching your back, and maybe you come down onto your forearms. You don't need to. Most days, I stay with my hands flat on the floor. We'll take a few more rounds like this. Before coming into a more passive fold. So your hands can be on your knees, down on the ground. You can be down on your forearms. We'll take away the movement. You're just reaching your chest forward. You're reaching your tailbone back behind you and trying to fold toward your legs. And you notice how it feels. If there are areas of intense sensation, you send your breath there. You picture the lungs there. And you inform it with the qualities of that breath. So it is smooth and soft and slow. Legs stay the same. You're going to stay folded. And you'll walk your torso and your arms over to the right in the direction of your right knee. For some people, fitting the curve of your throat over the round part of your knee is going to be a very natural and satisfying fit. For others, it won't, and so you don't do it. Not all things fit all bodies, and that's perfectly fine. Take 3 breaths on this side. That's going to be a while. You notice the shape in your body, that curve going from the left hip crease through the left side of your body. The left hip crease trying to go down to extend that curve deepens the stretch in the left hip. After your 3rd breath, you'll walk through center and over toward the left leg. So you side stretch the other way. And once you get there, you settle in. You tune into the shapes with your arms pretty close to your ears. You tune into the breath. It's kind of like listening to a seashell. You can hear the sound of the sea there. Take 3 breaths on this side. And after 3, you walk yourself back to center. Walk your hands back toward your legs so that you can come upright. And now just a little sort of reset between the 2 sides. Reach your left arm up toward the air. Bend your elbow and take your fingers toward the back of your head or between your shoulders. Your right hand will come overhead and grab a hold of the left elbow, so you've got a good grip there. And then you inhale to sit up tall. Exhale, you think of side bending. So you draw the elbow a little over to the right, send your left ribs farther to the left. And you didn't hear from me, but you can add a little cat-cow movement in the upper back. So you exhale and you round the back, the elbow pushes into the head. Inhale, the head pushes into the elbow just a little, and you arch the back. Come back to center and switch arms. So left fingers go toward the nape of the neck kind of area. Left hand grabs the right elbow, and you side body bend over to the other side. You establish the rhythm of your breath. Maybe it comes into a movement, a little arching and rounding in the upper back. And then back to center. Not a moment too soon. Take your hands down to the ground just behind you. Unwind your legs. Bring your feet flat on the floor, wider than your hips. And really simple, just windshield wipe your knees from side to side. You can use inhales and exhales, really however you like. Make it breezy, simple. And then come back to center. And you'll cross your legs the less intuitive way. So the other shin in front. And you can do all those little tips and tricks from last time. You can pick your hips up for a second, arch your back like a cow pose. And then when you bring your hips down in that position and you sit up, you'll sit up a little taller. Your lower back has more extension. You make the equilateral triangle in your legs. You make the feet and the knees, that width apart, the same. Perfect. Now, a lot of these muscles are already warmed up from the first side, so you might not need quite as much time to move through the variations, but still keep going through them in a hierarchy. You do one, then the other. You start with your hands on your knees, and for all of the variations, inhale, the tailbone tilts back to lift the chest up, to lift the chin up. And exhale, the chin draws down to tilt the tailbone forward. And you follow your breath. I leave it to you to decide when and if you should walk your hands ahead of your legs, whether you should come down with your forearms. Listen to the sensations in your body. Judge how you're feeling. You're looking for the same amount of intensity, roughly, as you felt on the first side. I'll let you know when it's time to come into the passive fold. Two more rounds of these undulations in your spine before pushing your tailbone back, stretching your chest forward, and taking some kind of fold where the movement is just the internal movement, your breath, your blood, and less with each moment, your thoughts. Picture lungs where you feel the tension. Breathe into that space. Legs stay the same. Torso walks over to the left in the direction of your left knee, and you take the fold with the side stretch. Walk yourself through center, make your way all the way to the right, toward the right knee, and then take your fold there. Walk yourself back to center. Walk your hands back toward your legs so that you come upright. And let's reset. Reach your right arm up, bend the elbow so that your fingers come toward the back of your head or the nape of your neck. Left hand grabs the right elbow. Right ribs move over to the right. The elbow goes over to the left. Side stretch. 3 breaths, with or without a little undulation in the upper spine. And after 3, you'll sit up in the middle and switch sides. Three more breaths. Before coming back to center, take your hands down to the ground behind you, unwind your legs, bring your feet flat on the floor, a little wider than your hips, and then just windshield wipe your knees from side to side. Forward folds are very introspective. You're letting the things behind you take precedence over the things in front of you. Literally, your head is looking in toward yourself. So it's nice to open things up with something breezy and large between folds. Your hands will be behind you. Point your fingers out to the sides of the room. Hands are about a shoulder width distance apart. Feet are flat on the ground, wider than the hips. You press the hands down, lift your chest up, lift your chin a little higher. And if you want to go farther, you press the feet down and start to lift the hips up into a table shape. And you take 3 breaths, really letting the breath rise high in the chest. This is where the cup runs over in the metaphor of filling your teacup. After your 3rd breath, you'll sit your hips back down, and it's like you've had a breath of fresh air. Next up, bring the soles of your feet together so your knees are bent out to the sides of the room, and move your feet away from your groin so that you make a large diamond. It looks like a square, so the angles all look around 90 degrees. It's as wide as it is long. Now, turn toward your right thigh. Left leg stays exactly the same. The right thigh is going to keep pointing in the same direction, but you're going to extend the leg so that the right thigh and the right calf come down onto the ground. Your right foot is pointing up, so the toes point toward the ceiling. If we started with a square and that square was a box, all you've done is open the lid of the box. Turn towards your right leg. It does not need to be all the way straight. You can add a little bend in the knee. If you're doing that, the knee is bending straight up toward the ceiling. You might even add a large bend in the knee. So you're turning toward the right leg. You lean a little bit toward the right leg. And your left hand goes behind you and comes to the left knee. Now, nothing's going to move, at least nothing behind you, but the hand and the knee start to inform each other. They start to press into each other just enough so that you wake up muscles that you weren't really aware were working. And then as you press behind you, and again, nothing's moving, you don't need to press the knee farther, it's good where it is. You reach your chest a little farther forward toward your right foot. Your right arm goes wherever feels convenient. It can be down on the floor outside of your right leg. It can be trying to walk toward the right foot. Your choice. Take a breath to find this give and take pressure. And then ease off the pressure and walk your left hand now as far as it will go toward the right foot. It does not need to touch. Most days it won't. You want to rest the hand somewhere down on the ground or on your mat. And then you bow your head and you just soften into the shape. You let it be passive. You take 3 breaths. After 3, you'll walk your hands back toward your hips so that you can bring your torso upright. And then you want to reform the box. So you bend the right knee, you bring the soles of the feet together and make that diamond square shape. Now turn toward your left leg. Right leg stays exactly where it is. Left thigh keeps pointing in the same direction, but you extend the leg so it goes out and continues in that direction with the shin. Your left hamstring, calf, and heel are on the floor. Your left toes point up toward the sky. Your left knee can be bent or straight. Turn toward your left leg. Start to lean forward toward your left leg. Right hand comes behind you, finds the top of the right knee, sort of the inner curved round part of the knee. And then without moving anything, the hand and the knee press into each other just enough to start that dialogue. Reach your chest toward the left foot. Take 2 breaths to press. And after 2, you ease off the pressure. The dialogue gets quieter and quieter and quieter until it's just communication of thoughts. And then the right hand is going to walk along the floor as far as it can go in the direction of the left foot. The point isn't contact here. The point is drawing a shape. There's a shape from the right hand going toward the left foot. That shape is an arc from your right pinky finger through the right arm, through the right side of your torso into your right hip. Take 2 more breaths here. Before walking your hands back toward your hips, sitting upright, reforming that box shape, you are once again the diamond in the rough. You sit up tall, and then bow forward, round your back. Your head is heading in the direction of your feet. You can hold the tops of your feet or slip your arms underneath your shins and hold the tops of your feet. You find somewhere where you can soften. It's a passive posture. Tortoise pose is the ultimate forward fold in terms of introspection. Your back body is larger than your front body. Your past, the things behind you, is more than the things in front of you. You look in toward yourself. You might soften or close your eyes. You don't need to literally look. And you drop into that full, deep breath. We're going to take some time here. And you'll use that time to notice the things happening in your body, to tune into your breath, and then you set the tone in your body by setting the tone in your breath. I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Take a deep breath in and let it go. And then slowly, piece by piece, you'll pull yourself out of this shape. You take as much time as you need to make your way into as comfortable a sitting position as you can. So that can be cross-legged or otherwise. That can be things below your hips or not. We'll all meet up in the same foundation. Now, wherever you are, roll your shoulders a few times, shift your weight around just a bit, and then you put yourself in center, so you're not leaning forward or back to the left or the right. You're right where you want to be. Hands come behind your back, and you interlace your fingers. You can stay right here. This can be your chest opener. If you want to go a little deeper into the side of one of your shoulders, your hands clasped will go toward the right side of your back. They might even sort of reappear at the right side of your midriff. You roll the shoulders back, the elbows draw toward each other. You push the fists a little forward, so they're trying to sneak around the side of your back, that kind of idea. And then you're sitting up tall, and you lean your head in the direction of your fists. And now you take the deepest, largest inhale to fill up all the way through the ribs, all the way underneath the collarbones, and that is where you will find your stretch. Through the breath, expanding the muscles from the inside. 3 breaths on this side. After 3, you'll come back to center. Release your hands for a moment so you can roll your shoulders a few times. And then you clasp your hands with the other thumb on top. Get to know your other side as you either keep your hands right here or send your hands over to the left side of your waist. The shoulders roll back. The elbows draw toward each other. The fists push forward. The head leans toward the fists, so it's a side stretch through the neck. And you create that stretch through your breath, through your control of a voluminous breath. 3 breaths to get there. Unwind your hands, stack your neck over your spine again, sit up in center. And then this is, I think, my absolute favorite release through the neck. I tend to keep a lot of tension there, so I'm happy to share it with you. You'll take your left hand to your right collarbone, that little nub of bone that is right underneath sort of the right band of your throat. You'll have your hand on your collarbone. And then you'll bring your right hand on top of your left hand. And both hands will start pulling down. You want to traction the skin downward. Bring the biting surfaces of your teeth gently together. And then turn your head to the left, so you're looking away from the side your hands are on, pulling down. Hands stay where they are. Teeth stay together. And inhale, you look up at the left side of the room. Exhale, you look down. You turn your chin down toward the left side of the room. And that's it. Inhale, you look up. And exhale, you look down. And twice more. Lifting and lowering. Gaining new perspective. And grounding yourself. You come back to center. You release your hands. And then the other side, just as simple. Right hand comes to left collarbone. Left hand comes on top. The hands start to pull the skin down. The teeth are together. You turn your head to the right. You look away from the hands. And then you keep looking over to the right. And inhale. The chin lifts up. You look up. Exhale. The forehead draws down. You look down. 3 more breaths. Follow your pace. And after 3, you'll come back to center. Clasp your hands behind your head, sit up tall, and then making it as passive as you can through the arms and through the head. Just let your chin draw toward your chest. The arms just hang off the head. And if they're really hanging, then the elbows will drift down a little closer toward each other. The space between your shoulders and your neck gets a little larger. You can feel that if you roll the shoulders back and down. And if you're looking to establish one more line of communication in your body, it is just a very gentle pressure. The head and the hands, they're not going to move, but they get to know each other just a touch. Take 2 breaths right here. After 2, you'll release your hands. You'll sit up. Bring your feet flat onto the floor in front of you. You'll bend your knees so that they're pointing up toward the ceiling. And really simple. Draw your chest forward, rest your torso on your thighs, bow your head for a simple forward fold. Inhale to sit up. Hook your hands around the backs of your knees. And you're going to use that to help you roll yourself down onto the... Make sure that there's room behind you for you to lie down. We're nearly there. We'll take a twist. So you bend your knees, your feet lift off the floor. Both knees go over to the right. You can take your left arm either out wide to the left or overhead like a backstroke. Earlier in class, your right hand was on top of your knee. For a more supportive version, you can simply rest your right hand on top of your left hip. And it's a gentle reminder of the shape you're making. The hand can guide the hip just a touch toward the head of your mat. Head of your mat isn't very clear. It's moving towards your heels. Take 2 breaths in this twist. By this point, 2 breaths might be quite a while. After 2, you'll roll yourself back into center and then take the same kind of twist on the other side. And once you move and adjust and everything is just right, you take those 2 expansive breaths on this side. Before rolling onto your back again, on your mat. One last thing in terms of postures. And if at this point you feel like you're ready to go, you're ready just to rest, you're welcome to go there. You don't need to do this last piece. It's a little bit of self-massage for your myofascia on your lower back. Hopefully a lower back release. You'll plant your feet flat like it's a bridge pose. And then bring your elbows down onto the mat, right sort of near the edges of your mat. So your elbows are kind of wide. And then you lift your hips just enough off the floor so that if you curl your hands into fists, you can slip your fists underneath your lower back. You want to be below the ribs, but above the hips. And you want there to be the right amount of space between your fists. What's the right amount of space? Well, next to your spine, there are these bands of muscles that run parallel to it. They help extend your spine. You want the knuckles of your fists to sort of rest just against the outside of those bands. So if you lower your back just a little down onto your hands, those bands are sort of squeezed just a little between your fists. If, when you start to lower your weight back down toward the mat and your hands, there's a lot of pressure, it's really uncomfortable, that's a sign that your fists should probably be a little bit wider apart. You want the back to rest down, and without having to engage your arms or anything, the shape to press those tissues just a little inward toward the spine. If this feels all right, and you want to go a little farther, you can start to walk your feet farther forward away from your hips. You might extend your legs. And whenever you get here, you'll take a few moments to sort of shimmy and shift a little side to side. Feeling out how the muscles respond in this new way. And then you settle into more stillness. You close your eyes and reestablish your breath. If you're in this shape, you'll hold it for 3 breaths. After 3, you would walk your feet back towards your hips so that you can pick your hips up off your hands. You release your hands down by your sides. You lift your hips just a little higher. It's kind of a bridge pose. And then roll your spine down. You can extend your legs out long along the mat. If there's a different shape you'd prefer for your final resting pose, you're welcome to go there. You're going to set up somewhere stable, comfortable. And when you get there, there's nothing you need to do. There's nothing you need to think about. You are exactly enough, just right here. I'm going to give you some time to absorb your practice, and I will let you know when it's time to start coming back out of it. So, take this time. You can stop thinking about your breath and just be. Take a deep breath and let it go. And allow your breath to invite movement back into your fingers and toes, your hands and feet, piece by piece, waking up. Eventually, you'll take your arms overhead in a full body stretch, and you get long and tall. And then rest your hands on your body. I'm going to end today's class with a quote from Michael Stone. He wrote, "Breathe soft. When we soften the breath, the body becomes softer. When the body becomes softer, it offers less resistance to whatever we're feeling, and whatever we're feeling has a chance to arise and express itself without being locked in by the hardness of the body." So we breathe soft. And the harder our reality gets, the softer we breathe. And we follow this breath, that primal realm, deeper than language and form and thought. Thank you very much for making this time in your day, in your schedule, to focus on your body and on your breath. Namaste.